So as you think about your Air Force career, is there anything that stands out in your memory as being a situation where you had to draw upon that courage that that was further developed at the academy and then had to be applied, either moral courage, physical courage, whatever, to a situation in the Air Force?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I wasn't planning on talking about this particular area, but I'll talk about it the best I can because it is very sensitive. I was a security, well, I was what we call a security police officer for my first 10 years. We'll talk about in my bio.
Right.
And my first 10 years in security police, I worked around very sensitive resources, national critical resources.
Uh-huh.
They were the ones that went on the aircraft and stuff like that. I was posted in Germany, a place called Fuchsal, Germany. And I was in charge of about 150 security police personnel. They were called custodial agents. In a very, not a remote part of Germany, but in a part of Germany that was, we were away from anything American. We were on a German fighter base. And these resources that were nationally critical resources were part of the NATO war effort.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, during the time I was there, we had a lot of terrorist activity going on. Biter Mayhawk gang and other kinds of things that happened.
Now, Rocky, when was this? What years?
1970, 76, excuse me, 77, 1977.
Okay.
Uh,
Bader Meinhof gang and yeah, Red Army faction, whole thing.
There was a lot of increased terrorist activity going on in Europe at the time, in Germany in particular.
Right.
And anyway.
By the way, Rocky, we just lost your video.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
There we go.
So we had different DEF CON alert ratings and stuff. And one in particular, there was in fact, the officer club in Ramstein, Germany, was blown up, and so they had a high DEF CON alert. Anyway, so that meant that where my troops were guarding this weapon storage area, they locked it down. They essentially locked it down and prevented anyone from coming into their facility. Well, what happened was the det commander, the Air Force det commander, assistant det commander, was having a wives club tour of all the facilities, what they were doing. And he came up to the weapons storage area and they wanted access. My security guards, who I trained fairly well, knew the DEF CON rating was, and they knew that it was locked down. And so they told, at the time he was a major, said that, sorry, sir, you can't come in. And he had a group of the wives there wanting to come in. And they said, you know, can't do it. And of course, the major was very irate and said, I order you to let me in. He's a deputy det commander. So he does have the power to do that. But the troops there said, sorry, sir, we have increased insecurity, you can't come. He was insistent upon wanting entry. So they called me as the chief of police who was responsible for that area. So I got down there and I told the major, you know, well, on the side, that what was happening, and we had teletype stuff from the safety commander saying they wanted everything shut down, and no one was to go into the areas because of this increased vigilance that was going on. Well, he wouldn't accept that. He said, well, I'm the det commander and I override that. And I said, no, sir, you can't do that. You're not allowed in the area. Now, here I was, a young, just captain, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And he was a fairly senior major. that was a tough situation for me. I knew that this was a serious event that was happening. There was no playbook that I had in front of me to say, well, I got this, something that will back me up saying, I said, I used my judgment and said, no, sir, this is not the time to take people inside this area. And he said it 3 times to me. He says, I'll see you in a court martial. And left.
Wow.
I'm serious. I mean, there it was. And so I stood my ground. Of course, my troops were watching me. So I waited and waited and waited for when the det commander came back from TDY, was my ceremoniously court-martial was going to happen. And it never did. It never did. The det commander and I talked, and I told him the situation. And what was said and unsaid during that whole event was, I felt I didn't get my career ended, but I certainly wasn't looked upon very favorably.
Not a career enhancing move.
It didn't affect my career. I mean, my OPRs and stuff were written by, I was promoted on time, and all the things were okay. But if I were, I wasn't planning on telling you that, but I think, I think it's important to know. What I was planning on telling you was that we all come with those inflection points in our career in which our morality is being tested, especially as a military officer. And I want to say, I became an officer training school flight commander. It's in my bio. And what I used to tell those former officers to be was I kind of related this story, but I diluted it a little bit.
Yeah.
About you're going to be tested in your career. You're going to be right from wrong. You're going to be put in that situation, and you're not going to have a playbook in your hand. You're not going to have, well, it says here I do this at this time. More times than not, you're not going to have that playbook. You're going to have to use your morals, your judgment, and your good perspective in order to do what's right. And many times, do what's right doesn't have a good effect on your career. In many cases, it doesn't. I was somewhat fortunate in my case there, is because it was a serious event. I mean, there were people dying, explosion at a club, and other things happening, and I took the path of what I felt was important. Guarding is very critical in these national resources, and it wasn't popular, but I felt I did my duty to the country and to the people around. So, it was, I don't even talk about this with my wife. I didn't even talk about it because they wouldn't understand. And really, that's what being a military officer is all about.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in tough situations. I used to tell the OTs, I call them at officer training school, when you sit down a Minuteman missile hole and you're just you and another person, I mean, you've got a field of 10 missiles under your command. And the awesome responsibility you have as a young lieutenant, for crying out loud, of guarding of the country depends on you doing the right thing, because no one is down there looking over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.